This is the Itel P40 Plus. And after looking at the specs of this phone, one thing really stands out, and that's the 7000 mAh battery. Probably the most I've ever seen on a smartphone. So it's got a big battery. What else? The design is pretty minimal. Itel went with a two-tone finish. Most of the rear is matte, and at the top half, we have a glossy black bar. That houses the cameras and flash. It's a very thick phone, and I noticed that the second I picked it up, and of course that makes a lot of sense because of that huge battery. The sides are flat and it does have that modern boxy feel to it. There is also a USB-C port for the first time on a P30 series phone, I think. There's a headphone jack, one speaker and one microphone. Also for the first time, there is a fingerprint sensor and the power button. You can find that on the right side of the phone. It also works just as it should. Another first for the P30 series is a hole punch cutout for the selfie camera. We're so used to the teardrop notch, but it seems they've dropped it, making the display look modern. For the actual display, we get a 720p LCD display, but still on that making everything modern trend, we get a 90Hz refresh rate, meaning this display is now more responsive and essentially smoother to use. And trust me, this is something you'll notice as soon as you take a swipe. It's ridiculous that Itel was able to do this. You might have to go into settings and switch it from auto refresh to 90Hz. The display is definitely better for watching videos thanks to that hole punch cutout. YouTube videos are stuck at 720p, but even at that resolution, it's still very decent. It's not the brightest of displays, especially when you go outdoors, because you struggle to see what's on the screen. But overall, they made improvements to the display, so we have to give them props for that. Performance is usually where you see these entry-level smartphones cut corners, and on here we have the Unisoc T606 chipset. It's an entry-level octa-core processor, and according to Unisoc, the T606 lets users do more, faster. And I would say I did notice that. It did feel faster than any other Itel phone I've handled, and I think at this price point you actually wouldn't find anything faster. It is also what enables 4G connectivity on this phone, which no doubt is also a selling point. Now of course this is still an entry-level phone, so you might encounter hiccups here and there, but when it comes to opening apps, switching between them, I can tell that this is much faster now. This isn't a gaming phone, but when I played Subway Surfers, there were no issues, no frame drops, no crashing, it ran the game smoothly. So I think you should be able to play some light 2D and 3D games and shouldn't run into any issues. Multitasking is also decent for this price point thanks to its 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. You can still expand that 4GB of RAM to 8GB courtesy of virtual RAM, but I don't think you'll need it. Performance is still sort of limited, but it's definitely better. Cameras are probably still the weakest point in my opinion. This has a 13MP main camera and an 8MP selfie camera. The photos aren't great, but in broad daylight, thanks to some pretty decent image processing, the results are passable. They do have a bit of pop to its color, which is always nice, but they do lack detail. But then again, at this price point, this is typical. The selfies are also kind of inconsistent, but when it gets it right, it gets it right. Video recording is maxed at 1080p with no stabilization, so not exactly great, but considering you're probably not going to be taking lots of videos on this, it's not that big a deal. But again, those are just my thoughts. I would like to know what you guys think about the photos and videos that you've seen. The most impressive part of this phone is definitely its battery. As earlier mentioned, it's a 7000 mAh cell, and according to Itel, it's a 4-day phone, and it could be if you're barely using it. But my guess is it's mostly a 2 to 3 day phone for most people, which is still very impressive. Coupled with that big battery, we get an 18W charging adapter in the box. It would still take a long while to charge because 7000 mAh is a lot, but yeah, it's still better than 15W. The P40 Plus is definitely a step in the right direction, and it's a worthy successor to the P38 series. USB Type-C, the side-mounted fingerprint reader, that hole punch cutout, 90Hz, 128GB of storage, 4G connectivity, Android 13, that huge 7000 mAh battery, and 18W of fast charging. All that for 72,400 Naira. Final thoughts, the P40 Plus is still an entry-level phone. It's built for people getting their first smartphone. but it does have a couple nice premium-like features and of course a ginormous battery. Those are my thoughts on the P40 Plus. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you when you see me.